Alright guys, so today we're going to be installing a 2-inch leveling kit on my new 2004 F-150. Alright, so obviously the first step is to put the truck on a nice level surface where you're going to be working at, whether it's your driveway, outside, garage, or shop. The truck's a little bit long. I want to be able to have some space to work around it. So I just closed my garage up to the bed to block some of the light and heat. I live in Las Vegas, so it's super hot. So first thing I had to do was turn on the little fan, get some water, get an energy drink for the morning. It's first thing in the morning right now. But yeah, so it's a 2004 Ford F-150 5.4 Triton XLT. It's 4-wheel drive. I have a 2004 F-150, just the standard 2-wheel drive, like single cab edition. That we built into a pre-runner, and I really like that truck, so I decided to look for a little bit of a nicer one for the family wagon. So this is our new daily driver that we're going to use to go out and do photo shoots, video shoots. I really wanted something 4-wheel drive, so this is my first 4-wheel drive vehicle ever. So anyways, we'll open up the box. I didn't want to wait for shipping, so I actually found the Rough Country level kit on Amazon, and it came in 2 days. I just opened it up, and some stickers, some safety stickers and service reminder, a catalog, the 2 spacers, and the hardware. So if you guys aren't familiar, a couple companies make spacers like this. So pretty much how it works is you take off your OEM strut coilover, so your spring and shock, and you put this on top of it. It has staggered bolt holes, so you're going to bolt this to your shock, and then it's going to be staggered, and you're going to put it back into the coil bucket, into shock mount, and you're going to bolt it to the chassis. So you're actually just going to gain this much, level / lift. You can't go too crazy with this kind of, leveling kit or lift, because you don't want to mess up your suspension geometry and throw your alignment all out of whack. So I'm going to have to get an alignment after this is done. But I'm hoping to get a little bit more ground clearance, kind of level out the stink bug look of the truck. And then I'm also going to pick up some newer body style Ford wheels, some 18-inch wheels with 32-inch all-terrains. So hopefully the overall look of it just kind of gets some better ground clearance. So it looks a little bit more aggressive. Alright, so we got the truck pulled in the garage, the rear wheels are chocked. The first thing I'm going to do is measure from the ground up to the bottom of the fender well to get an accurate measurement to compare to after we put the level kit on to see how much ground clearance we actually gained. After that, I'm going to pull off the wheels and tires, put her on jack stands, and then get started. It looks like the before measurement is about 36¼ inches from the ground to the bottom of the fender well. So 36¼ inches, about 36 on one side. The driver's side looks like it's about 1/4 inch lower, probably just due to the weight being driven on this side of the truck for 16 years. It's a little bit sagged out, so we'll see how even it goes once we put the level kit on. pulled it all out. It came right out. I didn't disconnect 4-wheel drive. My brake lines still have play in them, so they're not tight, anything like that. And I have a jack holding everything up just for some extra support. And that way I can kind of jack it up and down to get bolts out easier. So the next thing we're going to do is put the spacer onto the shock and then start putting it back together. Couple of tips. When you're taking the upper control arm apart from the spindle, you want to loosen this nut with an impact or a wrench, whatever you got, but you want to leave it a couple threads on. That way when you hammer the spindle and it breaks apart, it doesn't fall right off. It's actually going to get caught on this nut. And leave that on there until you're ready to actually separate the two. When you take this apart, you can go and take the nut off because it goes on the bottom side. So all you're going to do is hammer against the spindle until it falls out. The sway bar mount, the nut is on the bottom that you want to take apart, and it's one of those like pressed in ball joints that you have to actually hold on to with a wrench or some pliers, something like that, to get it off. So I just used, where did I put them? Just some adjustable pliers, and I just grabbed onto it in there. Then I was able to use my impact on the bottom to get that nut off. So those are just a couple of tips so far. I was going to use a pry bar to pry up the upper control arm to get this apart, but as soon as I took it off, it fell right out after moving the jack just a little bit. Same thing to get the lower shock mount off. I just lowered the jack a little bit until all the pressure was off of it and it was drooped out, and then the bolt came right out. I think that's it for tips. Like I said, nothing is pulling, nothing is tight. I have everything pretty secure up here. I did not have to take off 4-wheel drive to get the coilover out, so hopefully we don't have to mess with that. So we're going to take the new hardware and we're going to drop the nuts. Alright, so something interesting that happened to me is these little like cutouts that fit the bolt head. They're supposed to hold it in place. They are way too tight, so I actually had to put it down on the floor sideways and use my feet to hold it and hammer it in. So I actually had to hammer these in there to get them in. Alright, so now we're going to take the factory hardware, put a little bit of Loctite on them, and screw those on. We're going to save the hardware that came with the kit, and that's going to actually go on the new upper shock mount. And then we're going to go ahead and torque this to 30 foot-pounds. You can see we got the upper control arm mounted back to the spindle, tie rod mounted back to the spindle, sway bar mounted back to the lower control arm, upper shock bolt bolted in, upper shock mount, so all 3 bolts and nuts put on, and lower shock bolt bolted back in. So everything is nice and tight, Loctited. So now we're ready to put the wheel back on, and then do the same thing on the other side. So I'm not going to film the other side. I'm going to take some pictures for you guys, that way I can plug it into the video, but it's identical. Alright, so when you're all done, you want to obviously move your wheel chock, take it off the jack stands after you got your lug nuts back on, and then you set it back on the ground. You want to turn, start the truck up and turn your wheels left and right, full crank, just to help the suspension settle a little bit. After that, I backed it out and I took it up and down the street a couple times, did a couple of full crank, U-turns and all that stuff to help it settle before I do this measurement. So it should all be settled in now. And I lost my tape measure. Oh, it's over there. Now we're back in here and it's all settled. We're gonna take our tape measure, put it back to the ground, get it as straight as possible. So we're right under 38.5, so almost exactly 2.5 inches of level / lift. with the stock wheels and tires still. So after I go pick up those new wheels and tires and get in alignment, I'll measure one more time just to see. Just add another 2 inches to it. So it's pretty simple. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna go pick those wheels and tires up, and then I will show you guys the final product and stuff.